Hey, deserving listeners, season 5, Love is Blind, Houston, Skyline. Let's watch.
Have you not felt that way from me?
I think you come in and you're like, you want to give me a hug and stuff, but like in these instances, you're like, thank God I chose you instead of that. Like, you want the angst of like, you're afraid to lose me all the time.
What did she just say? There's so many weird statements. So, did she say, I want you to feel worried about losing me all the... I mean, okay, so on one level, yeah, do I want my wife... No, I don't want her to worry about losing me. I want her to not want to lose me, but I don't want her to worry about losing me. Maybe I heard that.
Instances, you're like, thank God I chose you instead of that. Like, you want the angst of like, you're afraid to lose me all the time.
Yeah, who knows what that means? Yeah, like I said, it could be just the wrong phrase. It's not really what she means, but there's a possibility that she literally means, I want you to be in a constant state of preoccupation and pursuing of me and worry that you're going to lose me, because that's the only time I feel secure, is when I'm getting this constant pursuing and worry, an indication that you're not going to leave me. Anything short of that, then I start to feel insecure, and then I reject or run or criticize or something. I don't know. I mean, that's extreme. I don't know about Stacy, but that is a thing. That is a thing that people will resort to. Because of their attachment security, that's their solution, which is awful.
Okay.
I'm just saying there's other ways that you could show me that you're appreciative of me and not compare it to your past relationships that we just encountered.
That's a stretch, right? That basically she's saying you've never loved me or shown appreciation of me unless Johnny is involved, which is not true. We've seen it on camera that he has shown his affection for her. And we just got to figure that there's been a lot behind the scenes. Maybe not as much as Stacy wants or needs or something, but to just say that is... it's got to be exaggeratory and hurtful to him, because I'm guessing for him, he's just like, wait, what? You've never received love and affection from me except when Johnny, is that really?
Johnny's not a previous relationship. Johnny was a pod chick.
Well, she was over me for quite some time, so I kind of don't feel so good about that.
Okay. So I think for Izzy, this is his worst nightmare. It's possible that he's been trying to demonstrate. It's interesting how when we are running from attachment insecurity through defense mechanisms that are not healthy and not useful in the end, like for Izzy, he feels insecure about the relationship, and instead of just addressing it directly or trusting that the situation will work itself out, he's trying to fast track it by going after Johnny and saying, I'm okay. I feel like maybe Stacy she's not, secure with me, or she doesn't want to be with me. And so I'm going to show her, I'm going to prove to her, and then I'm going to victimize another human being, Johnny. And then he turns around to Stacy, and Stacy is not impressed. And he's like, I did this for you. I did it so I could prove to you. And then because he did that, it to Stacy looks like, well, now it kind of looks like you want to be with Johnny. And I think in that line of thinking, this would be his worst nightmare. He kind of has that body language of like, oh, this is what I've been trying to avoid.
Okay.
That makes me feel not good. Like, I'm a pod chick. You met me in a pod.
Stacy is just looking for anything to nitpick. And if I were there, I'd be like, how about we wait till the morning, until he's sober, because this is going down a road and I don't think anything good is going to happen. It just certainly doesn't look that way. Although they've pulled out of nosedives before, so we'll see. But for her to just look for any reason to nitpick and attack him. I mean, I don't know, maybe her accusations are reasonable, but they don't seem like it, right? Let's rewind this, because I want to hear specifically what she was saying.
Okay.
That makes me feel not good.
Right, so, I mean, putting aside pod chick as potentially well, not potentially, but a sexist, demeaning way of saying it. I mean, all he had to say. So again, I don't think he necessarily thinks this way. I think he's trying to prove himself to her. Maybe this has to do with his upbringing. I don't know. Maybe there was some kind of desperation to try to prove something. But another phrase is just like, well, the fastest way from A to B, or the most honest way, would be for Izzy to say, I totally get that you would be worried, and I just want you to know that I love you, and I want to prove to you that I want to be with you. There's nothing you can do in this moment to somehow hold up a trophy and say, like, look, there's evidence that I love you. You just have to. There's not a bullet point list that you can make if you're in Izzy's shoes per se. Anyway, so he says, she frames it as a past relationship, and he's trying to get out ahead of that, because it's totally one way to frame it, that it was a past relationship. And the way that you and I had a relationship with the pods, you also had a relationship with Johnny. It was a past relationship. And then he says it wasn't a past relationship. She was just a pod chick. So he's rejecting that because he's trying to fast track his relationship with Stacy, trying to prove to her, which backfires because then he calls her a pod chick, which is Stacy too. Wait, was I a pod? What is... Now, I think most people in Stacy's shoes would hear that and say, well, the essence of what he's trying to tell me is that he loves me and he doesn't want to be with Johnny. That's what he's trying to say. That's essentially what he's trying to say. Anyway, so she drills down on that, but she's saying that she feels small because she was, in her mind, second choice for a while. And she was, right? She was second to Johnny, maybe even third or fourth. I don't know. But she wasn't really in the ballpark. And so she is either truly insecure about that, which would be okay, and you can have a conversation about that in a way that's constructive. But there's also a possibility that she's just trying to find some way to justify the fact that she doesn't want to be with him, because there's a lot of things pointing in that direction.
I feel like it's more talk than it is showing me. I do.
Are you talking about me and my actions? Mm-hmm. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Okay, so we'll hear an elaboration, but this is in that camp. I think of when you come home, I don't see any evidence of a relationship. And we don't know. It's possible that off camera, Izzy is totally shut down or blows her off, dismisses her or something. But on camera, if anyone is being dismissive, it's Stacy, right? Izzy is fairly affectionate. There's a fair amount of, just in this conversation alone, which is kind of an interesting thing to look at, that in this conversation alone, he has at least been seemingly trying to build a relationship with Stacy, trying to demonstrate that he wants to be with her. Now, maybe it's false, but he's trying, and Stacy has done nothing. When was the last time we even saw Stacy on camera anyway? Now, maybe off camera, she's totally different. She's very open and loving and caring. That could happen, but so I don't know how to read this exactly. I keep wondering, though, if Stacy's just grasping for justifications of breaking up. And this is a really awful way to break up with someone. If you fall out of love with someone and you don't want to be with someone, and there's no real huge reason as to why you don't, you're fixating on certain details, like, the way he smells, or I can't stand the fact that, he plays that game with his friends or whatever. Those are aggravations, but really deep down, you just fell out of love. You're just over it, or the relationship ran its course or something. And instead of just saying that, look, I don't know why, but I just don't want to be with you anymore. I could identify a couple of reasons, but I don't think I think I just drifted away from you or something like that. It is an asshole thing to do, to say, no, it has nothing to do with me and my feelings, which it probably did. It's all about you, and I'm just going to nitpick all these details about you as a way of trying to justify, because I feel ashamed or unsure, and so I'm going to attack you on these bullet points. If you've ever been broken up with in a way that didn't make any sense, but you were being criticized the whole time, you're just like, so wait, you broke up with me, or you cheated on me, and it was because of what? That was always, it's sort of like with JP and Taylor, how JP is like your makeup. Now, it's possible that he is brainwashed, and he's a part of some sort of internet cult that has brainwashed him around that does exist. And I would not be surprised. There's a lot of Andrew Tateites and all those incels and everything. I mean, they're among us. They are the brainwashed cult members that are right next door to us. They could be friends of ours. And so it's possible that he was just speaking from that brainwashed place, but it's also possible that, he looked like he really wanted to be with her, but was sure that she was going to break up with him, and so maybe he was just grasping at straws. Anyway, point is that there's a possibility that's what Stacy's doing. I don't know.
So like in the pods, you're like, in ideal life, this is how it would go. Like we come home from work and we lay down and like, I do this, I'll cook for you and I'll like rub your feet and this and that, and it's like.
So you hear that language, it's all for her. In the pods, you said you were going to be my manservant, Now, maybe she's saying it would, and then I would rub your feet, but I don't know. It's just, I'm trying to figure out what's going on in her mind.
Sometimes I feel like that's me doing.
Okay, so elaborate more. You cook for me twice. Mm-hmm. Put aside that. What have I not done for you?
Cook for me.
Again, put cooking aside. What have I not done for you?
Like until.
Do you hear what you're saying right now?
I do. I'm telling you that's in front of computer.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see if Stacy does this, but this is Izzy trying to alert her, like, so you're telling me I've done nothing for you? I'm a horrible fiance. I'm a horrible boyfriend. I've never done anything for you ever. You can't identify. And I have had this happen many times in my office with couples, that people, especially when they're in arguments and they're hurt, they'll remember and see things in a particular way that they will say, like, you've never da-da-da, or you always da-da-da. And the person receiving that will be like, wait, so I never care about your feelings? Really? Is you're telling me in our 25 years together, I've never cared about your feelings. I never, ever, in 25 years, I've never cared about your feelings? What? But to the Stacys of the world, that's how they feel, right? That's how they feel about the situation. That seems to make sense to them because they can't recall, because of the personality disorder, because of the distortion, because of the pain or the attachment security, the immaturity, the lack of differentiation. Something's going on, and someone will just, they believe that, yeah, you've literally never cared about my feelings in my entire life. And to receive that, it's so hurtful. You're just thinking, well, one, my God, how could you possibly say that when I mean, even if you say that I at times have not cared about your feelings, I feel like I know that I've done a lot of things to care about your feelings and demonstrate that. Also, why are you with me? if you've never received that. Also, we're doomed, because even if I show you, like I usually do, even if I increase it, that I care about your feelings, you're not going to register it. So we're doomed. I can't win. It's very destructive to say things. That's why in couple therapy, as you are talking, and I'll talk about this with couples, is if you're ever about to say never or always, stop and think, because there's a chance that what you're about to say is actually extremely destructive. Now, for some people, they don't receive those statements as literal. You never care about my feelings. If you hear that, sometimes you'd be like, well, I know they don't mean never. They just mean often, that sort of thing. And in fact, I have to break students of this habit. They will write in their papers, or when they're talking, some students, a minority of them will, as they are conceptualizing their clients, like I'll do a demonstration of a couple in class, and then people will write a paper about it, or they'll talk about it, and they'll say like, yeah, so the husband, he never, validates the wife's feelings. He's constantly dismissing her, these kinds of statements. And for lay people, they can use these statements and it's still inaccurate, but it's not a problem. For a clinician to write in a sober analysis of a client to say that they constantly are dismissing or they never validate feelings is a way that people talk, but as a clinician, it is inaccurate and harmful and biased. It's a problem. And so I will circle it with a big red thing on the paper, or I'll say, I'll say this to, I'll say that, hey, that's a colloquialism. That's the way that we talked before we became therapists, but now that we're therapists, we can't use those terms anymore. A better term is that the husband frequently will dismiss, or the husband rarely, or I haven't seen evidence of the husband validating the wife's feelings. That's a more accurate statement, right? So I don't know what's happening exactly, but clearly Izzy is hurt and he's starting to cry. And if Stacy has any affection or love for even just human beings, even if she doesn't want to be with him, because she's not saying that he has been abusing her, right? Even if she believes this to be true, which I still wonder about, that he is not affectionate, even if that's true, in this moment, if there's any kind of connection and love, then Stacy will do something to accommodate. So, oh no, yeah, you do some things, but I'm just saying. Yeah. So let's use this as a litmus test for maybe what's going on inside of Stacy's heart. There's also a possibility that she does love Izzy, but this is how she loves people.
I do. I'm telling you that 'cause I'm trying to communicate with you.
I'm listening.
No, you're being defensive.
No, I'm listening because I'm in shock because this is new to me because we've had so many times on our own, and this is now the first time that I'm hearing this.
And then accusing him of being defensive? Well, yeah. He's being accused of never being affectionate and never showing love and never having effort in the relationship. I mean, she's saying a very global thing, and he's being very mildly defensive because I don't think he thinks it to be true. Being defensive, we will sometimes label as like, that's a bad thing. But there are times when defending yourself is actually important because it might even show to the other person that, if he was just like, oh, okay, I accept your premise that I've never loved you, that actually might be a bad thing because then that means that he doesn't actually love her, right? Okay, I think he's saying you answer the question because I will say that for how intoxicated I think he is, I think he's handling it pretty well. But he's saying this is a question for you to answer, I think, meaning if you don't know any of the things that I've done, then I guess we have failed as a couple because I have done things for you. The other thing to think about is they both work, right? So, when you work, then it's hard to have these kinds of moments, right? You're at work all day, especially if you have kids and other things that you're doing in life. And the typical work day is commute for a long time, work a long time, commute a long time, come home tired, chores, bed, work, Maybe after the vacation that they went on, it was back to the grind, and maybe even a lot of grind because they piled up a lot of work because they were gone for a while, right? A lot of employers will do that to people now, which is not cool and against labor ethics anyway, because just a little stint on this. I don't know if it was always this way or not, but I feel like when I was younger, at jobs when you got like a vacation, 2-week vacation for the year, that everyone understood that you wouldn't have to work a lot before or after. You could literally just do your normal job, maybe a little bit of extra work, and then you go on vacation and you come back and you just pick up where you left off or other people. But the way I feel like today, the employers, the capitalists have convinced us all that what you're supposed to do, what is the practice, is you're supposed to take that 2 weeks of work and just pile it up before and after your vacation, which is not the definition of a vacation. It's not that you're just, essentially, it's like you're working 80 hours a week so that you can take 40 hours off. And that's not the way vacations are supposed to work. And we need to push back on that culture, which means that us as labor have to say, fuck you, boss, I'm not going to do that. If we all do that, then the bosses have to hire more people or figure out another system, and the owners make less money. But when we give into that, then the owners make more money, and the rich get richer, and the CEOs get richer. And so we as labor will not stand that anymore. So that, working on the weekends, taking emails at night, the managers, they want us to do that because they win, because they have stock and they get money. If the company makes profit, then they make money. We do not as labor. So we as labor always have to be pushing back on that. And I feel like that has been lost. The union, anti-unions and all that stuff is a problem, and we have loneliness and depression and anxiety and suicide, and everything's going up. A lot of upset people, a lot of people who can't make ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, and it's because the capitalists have managed to get us to be convinced that their goals are our goals and our goals are their goals. They are not the same. Labor and management there's a Venn diagram. They are at odds, and there has to be pushback in the form of unions and culture and action and activism and marching and striking and all that stuff, and it includes vacation. Anyway, so it's possible that for them, they were underneath that. We could absolutely imagine Stacy being like that. And I don't know about Izzy. He was trying to have work-life balance. That's what he was talking about. But anyway, so is that what we're talking about, where they just are, they don't have a lot of time? We're not hearing, I'm really curious if Izzy were to say, okay, you're telling me that I'm not being very affectionate, but she's not even saying affectionate. She's saying, what are you doing for me? Now, we did hear that she made dinner for him. Maybe her work hours are different. I don't know. There's just a lot of circumstances, but I'd be really curious if I were there, I would ask this question. Okay, so Izzy, what has Stacy done for you? There's the 2 meals, but what affection, or does she come to you and hug you? Does she rub your feet? Because if she doesn't, then I would want to know from Stacy, okay, so you want him to be romantic and put effort and pursue you. Would that mean that you would also pursue him? What are we talking about here? Because the way that it's being framed is that he's in the hot seat, like he's in trouble, like he's a little boy, and mommy is saying that you're a bad boy. That's the way it feels to me. Or this conversation is illuminating that she gives a ton or things, and he's just completely not giving back. I don't know which one it is.
I'm barely home. I'm up earlier than you. Sometimes I get home later than you. I've cleaned aside of cooking, trying to be the best support system as your fiance, to be patient and kind and understanding, to try my best to adapt to you.
Okay, we're hearing that he wakes up before her, he comes home after her, and he's also saying, I'm trying to be the best person for you. That's interesting. Is that coming across to Stacy, or is that backfiring on him? Is he, in his attempt to be accommodating, is that making him distant? That will happen sometimes. If someone's like, okay, I don't want to bother them. In the optimal situation, in not every relationship, I'm not willing yet to say that, but in a lot of relationships, if not the majority, there's not only accommodating the other person, but there's also energy from the other person. And for accommodators, sometimes they're overly accommodating and they're not creating energy. It's one thing to accommodate and be nice and supportive, and that's great. But it's another thing when you also, so with me and Stacy, we try to accommodate each other, but we also have our own needs that we want met through the other person. And so we will, operate, I guess, selfishly by saying, hey, I want a hug, or hey, I need date night, or hey, let's hang out, or I need to talk with you, or I'm upset about something, I want to say something. So in that moment, if you're always accommodating, you actually won't do that because you're like, well, I don't want to get in their way. And that can create a lot of distance. I don't know if that's what we're hearing, but at the very least, we're hearing him say, I'm really trying to be accommodating to you. I'm trying to support you. I'm trying to be nice to you. And I hope that Stacy hears that. If she's looking, presumably she's looking for evidence that he loves her. And I would imagine that if she's legitimately looking for reasons, then there is a reason. She can certainly say, well, that's nice, but I'd also like this. But I don't see Stacy accommodating anything in this conversation. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.